Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind the weathered walls of an isolated ranch house? What hidden strengths might dwell in the heart of a person you'd least expect? In the rugged expanse of Wyoming's Wind River Valley, where the wild sage meets towering peaks, a group of outlaws is about to learn the hard way that appearances can be deadly deceptive. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Picture this: a band of ruthless criminals who think they've found an easy target, a simple rancher and his quiet wife. But when they take him hostage, they have no idea they've just challenged someone who can hit a target at 1,000 yards without breaking a sweat. What happens when these outlaws discover that the unassuming woman they've dismissed is actually one of the most skilled sharpshooters in the American West? The morning frost crunches beneath Catherine Kate Mitchell's boots as she crosses the yard of Thunder Ridge Ranch, her breath visible in the crisp autumn air. The sun hasn't yet created the jagged peaks, but she's already completed her morning ritual, checking the fence lines, monitoring the cattle, and, though few would guess it, scanning the surrounding ridges with the practiced eye of someone who knows exactly how to read terrain. The Winchester Model 70 mounted above the fireplace isn't just for show, though visitors assume it's merely a family heirloom. They don't notice how the brass is polished, the action smoothed to perfection, the scope precisely calibrated. They don't see the other rifles hidden throughout the house, each one maintained with obsessive precision. More importantly, they don't know about the medals locked away in a steel box beneath the floorboards. Awards from shooting competitions Kate dominated before choosing this quiet life with Thomas. The coffee pot burbles in the kitchen as Thomas enters, his tall frame filling the doorway. 23 years of marriage have taught him to read the subtle shifts in his wife's posture, the way she stands slightly straighter when something catches her attention. "Saw fresh tracks up by North Creek," he mentions casually, pouring 2 cups. 4 horses, moving fast, probably just those kids from the Reynolds place. Kate accepts the coffee, but her eyes never leave the distant tree line. "Reynolds kids don't ride shod horses," she replies softly, "and they don't carry that much weight." The tracks had told her everything. Heavy horses, well-maintained shoes, riders carrying significant gear. Not local ranch hands or weekend cowboys. Through the window, she spots movement along the ridge, a glint of metal quickly concealed, a shadow moving against the wind. Signs most would miss, but Kate's grandfather didn't raise her to miss anything. 5 years as the most successful competitive shooter in 3 states had only honed those instincts. "Miller's place got hit last week," Thomas continues, his voice careful. "Sheriff found their safe cracked and the horses gone, said it was professional work." He doesn't mention the rumors about the gang moving through the territory, the stories of methodical robberies and calculated violence. He doesn't have to. Kate sets her coffee down, mind automatically calculating distances, analyzing sight lines, noting potential cover. "Maybe we should move the cattle to the south pasture," she suggests, keeping her tone casual. "Better grazing this time of year." What she doesn't say is that the south pasture offers better defensive positions, clearer fields of fire, fewer blind spots. A truck appears on the distant road, moving slowly. Through the kitchen window, Kate notes details others might miss, the way it hugs the shadows, how it stops periodically to check its surroundings. Not lost tourists or local ranchers. These are people who understand surveillance, who know how to cause a target. The coffee pot burbles again, its familiar sound at odds with the tension Kate feels building. She remembers her grandfather's words, spoken over long hours at the range. "Power isn't about looking dangerous, girl. It's about being ready when danger comes looking for you." Thomas moves to start his morning chores, but Kate's hand on his arm stops him. To anyone else, it would look like a simple gesture of affection. but Thomas feels the pressure of her fingers, reads the warning in her touch. After 2 decades together, they've developed their own silent language. "Think I'll check the generator first," he says, understanding. The generator shed offers a clear view of the north approach, where Kate spotted the rider's tracks. "Heard it was running rough yesterday." Through her peripheral vision, Kate catches more movement along the ridge. The riders are being careful, using the terrain for cover, but they don't realize they're being watched by someone who's spent a lifetime reading landscapes. She counts 4 figures, matching the tracks she found. Their positioning suggests military or law enforcement background, too professional to be common bandits. The truck appears again, closer now. Kate notes the mud carefully spread over the license plate, the tinted windows, the heavy-duty suspension designed for rough terrain. Everything about it speaks of preparation, of people who plan their moves carefully. A radio crackles from the direction of the ridge. Though the words are indistinct, the pattern of communication suggests coordination. These aren't opportunistic thieves. This is an organized operation. "Might rain later," Kate observes, her voice carrying just enough for Thomas to catch her. Meaning, it's their old code, developed during years of working the ranch together. Rain means trouble is coming. "Should check the barn roof." Thomas nods, understanding perfectly. The barn's upper level offers the best vantage point of the property, a fact Kate had noted the day they bought the ranch. "I'll get the tools," he replies, but his hand brushes the shotgun, mounted by the door as he passes. The morning unfolds with deceptive normalcy, but Kate's mind is running calculations, formulating plans. The rifles hidden throughout the property aren't just for show. Each one positioned with purpose, each location chosen for specific fields of fire. The ranch's layout, which appears random to visitors, is actually a carefully considered defensive position. She remembers the last competition she entered before choosing this quiet life. The way other shooters had underestimated her, seeing only a rancher's wife with a hobby. They never knew about the years of training with her grandfather, a legendary marksman who taught her that true skill lies in patience, in waiting for exactly the right moment. A hawk circles overhead, and Kate watches its shadow move across the yard. The riders have stopped their advance, holding position along the ridge, waiting for something or someone. The truck has disappeared, but she knows it's out there, probably circling around to approach from another angle. Through the window, she spots Thomas in the barn, ostensibly checking equipment, but actually moving their emergency cache of ammunition to more accessible positions. They've prepared for this, though they never talked about it directly. Every renovation to the ranch, every seemingly casual decision about storage or equipment placement has been part of a larger plan. The radio crackles again, closer this time. Kate's enhanced hearing, developed through years of hunting and shooting, catches fragments of conversation. Professional terminology, tactical language. These aren't just thieves. They're something else entirely. She moves through the house with practiced efficiency, adjusting curtains to mask movement, checking sight, lines ensuring everything is prepared. To an outsider, it would look like simple housework. They wouldn't notice how each task serves a tactical purpose, how every position has been considered and planned. The morning sun climbs higher, casting shorter shadows across the yard. Kate knows the watchers on the ridge are getting restless. She can read it in their shifting positions, their increased radio chatter. They'll make their move soon. Thomas returns from the barn, his movements deliberately casual, but his eyes alert. "Generators running fine now," he reports, their code for defensive positions secured. "Thought I saw Jackson's boys heading this way earlier." Kate reads his real meaning. Unknown vehicles approaching from the west. She pours more coffee, using the movement to scan the property. The riders have split up, 2 moving to cover the eastern approach, while 2 maintain position on the ridge. Standard tactical deployment, suggesting military or law enforcement background, which raises the question, what are former professionals doing here? The truck appears again, this time on the Western Road. Through her scope, carefully positioned. Behind a kitchen curtain, Kate notes new details. The driver's practice scanning of sightlines, the passenger's tactical vest poorly concealed under a ranch coat. These aren't just well-equipped criminals. They're trained operators. A horse whinnies from the direction of the ridge, the sound carrying clearly in the morning air. Not a signal, Kate realizes, but a mistake. Someone getting sloppy, losing patience. She allows herself a small smile, remembering her grandfather's lessons about how waiting often reveals an opponent's weaknesses. The pieces are falling into place. Professional operators, coordinated movement, careful surveillance. They're not here for a simple robbery. They're after something specific, something they think is hidden on the ranch. Which means they're about to learn the hard way that some targets aren't as defenseless as they appear. The sound of an approaching vehicle draws Kate's attention. Not the mystery truck this time, a familiar engine. Through her spotting position, she recognizes Mike Foster's old Chevy pulling up to the gate. The local veterinarian's arrival isn't unusual. He often checks their cattle, but his timing raises concerns. "Got your message about checking the herd," Mike calls out as he exits his truck, but Kate catches the tension in his voice. She'd never sent a message. "Thought I'd stop by early." Thomas moves to greet him, maintaining the appearance of normalcy, but Kate notices how Mike's eyes dart to the ridgeline. 20 years of friendship have taught them to read each other's signals. The vet's early arrival isn't a coincidence. "I heard some interesting talk in town," Mike mentions as they walk toward the barn, his voice carefully controlled. New folks asking questions about the ranch, seemed real interested in the property layout, especially the old silver mine tunnels. Kate's mind sharpens at this detail. The abandoned mine shafts honeycomb the hills behind their property, a fact not marked on any recent maps. Her grandfather had shown her the hidden entrances years ago, made her memorize every twist and turn. "Tourist season's over," she replies neutrally, but her thoughts race with new possibilities. Through the barn window, she spots two riders breaking from the main group, circling wide to approach from the south. Their movement patterns suggest they're herding something or someone into position. The truck reappears briefly before disappearing behind a stand of aspens. "Sarah at the diner mentioned some strangers were asking about Thomas," Mike continues, checking a cow's ear tag while his eyes scanned the tree line. "Said they knew awful a lot about his time working security for those tech companies in California." Thomas stiffens slightly at this. His past job as head of security for several Silicon Valley firms isn't public knowledge. Kate reads the implications immediately. These aren't random bandits. They're here for something specific, something connected to Thomas's former work. The radio crackles again, closer now. Kate's trained ear catches fragments. "Primary target confirmed. Wait for a signal." The professionals are done with. Surveillance. They're preparing to move. A flash of sunlight on metal catches her attention. Someone signaling from the ridge. The coordination, the timing, the targeted surveillance. Everything clicks into place. This isn't just a robbery. It's an operation. "Mike," Kate says quietly, "think you could check the herd in the south pasture? Might need to move them soon." Her tone is casual, but her meaning is clear. Get clear of what's coming. The veterinarian nods, understanding. He's known Kate long, enough to recognize when she shifts from rancher's wife to something else entirely. "I'll take the long way round," he replies, heading for his truck. Less dust on the back roads. As Mike's truck disappears down the southern track, Kate moves. With renewed purpose, the Winchester above the fireplace is just for show, a decoy. The real tools of her trade are cached strategically throughout the property, each one maintained to competition standards. Thomas catches her eye across the barn, a silent question in his expression. Kate nods slightly. After 23 years of marriage, they don't need words to communicate. He understands. The waiting is almost over. The watchers are about to become the watched. These professionals think they've found an easy mark, a simple rancher and his sharpshooting wife. They're about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous targets are the ones that let you think you have the advantage. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Because Kate Mitchell didn't just win shooting competitions. She dominated them, set records that still stand. And then she chose this quiet life, this remote ranch, for very specific reasons. Reasons these uninvited guests are about to discover. The morning sun climbs higher, shadows shortening across the yard. Kate knows the waiting is almost over. Professional operators don't like attacking at high noon. Too much visibility, too few shadows. They'll move soon, while they still have a tactical advantage, or so they think. The riders make their first overt move just before noon. Kate watches through the kitchen window as two figures break from the tree line, approaching the ranch house with calculated casualness. Their gear suggests ranch hands, worn leather, dusty jeans, weathered hats, but their movement patterns betray military training. "Excuse me," the lead rider calls out, his accent carefully neutral. "Having some truck trouble down the road. Mind if we use your phone?" Thomas steps onto the porch, projecting helpful rancher energy while Kate maintains her position inside. "Cell service is pretty spotty out here," he responds, matching their casual tone. "Where'd you break down?" The riders dismount with practiced coordination, maintaining tactical spacing without seeming to. Through her peripheral vision, Kate spots their backup. Two more figures moving through the aspens, using the trees for cover while their companions draw attention. "About 3 miles back," the second rider replies, hand resting naturally near his concealed holster. "Radiators. Acting up. Sure, appreciate any help." Kate studies their body language, noting details that confirm her suspicions. The way they position themselves to cover multiple angles, how their eyes constantly scan the property, assessing threats and exits. These men aren't desperate travelers. They're conducting reconnaissance, probing defenses. "Got some tools in." "The barn," Thomas offers, carefully keeping himself between the strangers and the house. "Might have what you need." A dust cloud appears on the horizon, the mysterious truck returning. Kate catches fragments of radio chatter from the men's concealed earpieces. "Primary approaching, maintain position." The lead rider, Kate mentally labels him Echo based on his radio call sign, moves with casual purpose toward the barn. His partner Delta maintains his position, establishing clear fields of fire while appearing to simply wait. Through the scope hidden behind the curtain, Kate spots movement on the ridge. The other two riders have split up, taking elevated positions overlooking the property. Standard Overwatch protocol for a tactical operation. "Nice spread you got here," Echo comments, his eyes lingering on key features, sightlines, defensive positions, potential cover. "Must be quite a challenge maintaining all this yourself." "We manage," Thomas replies neutrally. The subtle emphasis on "we" doesn't go unnoticed. Kate reads the microscopic shifts in the rider's posture. They're reassessing, adjusting in threat assessment. The truck crests the final rise, approaching with deliberate slowness. Dust and mud obscure its details, but Kate notes the reinforced bumper, the custom suspension, the dark-tinted windows. Not the vehicle of common thieves. Her mind catalogues options, analyzing angles and positions. The Winchester displayed prominently above the fireplace has served its purpose, made them think they've identified the primary weapon, caused them to adjust their planning around a false threat. They haven't noticed the subtle modifications. To the barn's upper window, the carefully maintained firing positions concealed throughout the property. "Quite a collection of horses," Delta observes, nodding toward the corral. "That bay stallion especially looks like quarter-horse stock." "Good eye," Thomas acknowledges, but Kate catches his real meaning. The bay is positioned perfectly to block. Sight lines from the ridge to the barn's rear entrance, exactly as they planned it. The truck pulls up to the gate, engine idling. Two figures emerge, a man in expensive ranch wear that doesn't quite hide his tactical gear, and a woman whose casual stance belies her practiced scanning of the surroundings. The woman's bearing screams federal training, though Kate suspects she hasn't worn a badge in quite some time. "Mr. Mitchell," the man greets Thomas, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Hope we're not interrupting anything." Kate notes how he uses Thomas's name without introduction, confirmation they've been researching their target. Through her enhanced listening device, concealed by the kitchen radio, she catches more radio chatter. "Package en route, 15 minutes. "Don't believe we've met," Thomas replies, maintaining his helpful rancher demeanor while subtly shifting position. Anyone else would miss it, but Kate sees him moving to protect the barn's blind spot, where their emergency cache is hidden. "Jack Reynolds," the man offers smoothly, representing some investors interested in local properties, particularly ones with historical value. The name is obviously false, but it carries meaning. 3 months ago, the real Reynolds Ranch was hit by sophisticated thieves who knew exactly what they were looking for. The local sheriff found military-grade equipment left behind, signs of a professional operation. "Not looking to sell," Thomas responds firmly. Kate catches the woman's subtle hand signal to the riders, a gesture that confirms her suspicions about their connection to federal agencies. "Everyone has a price, Mr. Mitchell," Reynolds smiles, "especially when they understand the full value of what they're sitting on. The emphasis on full value isn't subtle. They know something, or think they know something, about the property, about Thomas's past, about secrets buried deeper than the old silver mine tunnels." Through her scope, Kate spots 2 more vehicles approaching from the north, unmarked SUVs moving with tactical precision. The operation is escalating, pieces moving into position. "Mind if we come inside?" Reynolds gestures toward the house. "Discuss this properly?" Before Thomas can respond, a new sound cuts through the morning air, rotors approaching from the east. A helicopter appears over the ridge, flying low and fast. Not medical or law enforcement, its matte black paint and lack of markings suggest private military contractors. Actually, Reynolds' tone shifts, dropping all pretense of friendliness. That wasn't really a request. The riders move with practiced efficiency, weapons appearing from concealed holsters. The woman from the truck produces a compact submachine gun from her jacket. Standard tactical intimidation, a show of force designed to ensure compliance. But they've made a crucial mistake. They're focused on Thomas, seeing him as the primary threat based on his security background. They've dismissed Kate as a simple rancher's wife, just as her shooting competition opponents once did. Kate's finger brushes the hidden trigger beneath the windowsill, a custom mechanism that will activate specific defensive measures. She waits, remembering her grandfather's lessons about patience, about choosing the perfect moment. The helicopter lands behind the barn, rotors kicking up dust that provides perfect cover. More operators emerge, moving with military precision toward pre-planned positions. "Inside," Reynolds orders, gesturing with his weapon. "Time to discuss what you've been hiding, Mr. Mitchell." Thomas complies, his movements carefully measured. To the observers, he appears appropriately intimidated. They don't notice how his path takes him exactly where Kate needs him, away from specific lines of fire. "Mrs. Mitchell!" Reynolds calls out, having spotted Kate through the window. "Join us, please. Wouldn't want anyone making poor decisions." Kate steps onto the porch, projecting nervous energy while her mind calculates angles, distances, timing. They see what they expect to see, a frightened rancher's wife. They don't notice how she positions herself relative to their operators, how she's already marked every weapon, every vulnerability. "The files, Mr. Mitchell," Reynolds states as they enter the house, "the ones you took when you left Silicon Valley, the real reason you bought this particular ranch with its convenient network of abandoned mines." The pieces click into place. They think Thomas stole something from his tech company days, hid it somewhere on the property. Their entire operation is based on this assumption. They have no idea they've just walked into a trap. 23 years in the making. No idea that Kate chose this ranch, this location, for very different reasons. No idea what's about to happen when they try to separate her from her husband, because some predators thrive by being underestimated. Some hunters prefer their targets to feel in control. The real operation is about to begin. Inside the ranch house, Reynolds' team moves with practiced efficiency, securing rooms while maintaining clear lines of sight. 2 operators position themselves by the windows. Another guards the back door. The woman, Kate catches them calling her Raven, maintains overwatch from a position that suggests extensive close protection training. "You know what's interesting, Mr. Mitchell?" Reynolds examines the Winchester mounted above the fireplace. "How someone with your background ends up here. Head of cybersecurity for 3 major tech firms, specialized in quantum encryption protocols, and suddenly you retire to raise cattle." Kate notes how he emphasizes certain words, watching Thomas for reactions. They've done their research, but they're still fishing for confirmation. Through her peripheral vision, she spots the helicopter's pilot maintaining position, engine idling, ready for rapid extraction. "Life gets complicated in Silicon Valley," Thomas responds carefully. "Sometimes simple looks appealing." A new sound catches Kate's attention, vehicles approaching from multiple directions. Through the window, she spots police lights. For a moment, hope flares among the ranch hands watching from the corral. But Kate recognizes the vehicles, county sheriff's department, but not their regular patrols. "Ah." Reynolds smiles as Sheriff Conway himself steps out of the lead vehicle. Right on schedule. The realization hits Kate. They haven't just compromised local law enforcement. They've orchestrated complete isolation. Any calls for help will be intercepted, any suspicious activity explained away by official channels. "Those files you secured," Reynolds continues, "the ones documenting Project Oracle, they're worth a lot to certain interested parties. Enough to fund operations like this, enough to convince people like Sheriff Conway to look the other way." Thomas's expression doesn't change, but Kate catches the subtle shift in his posture. Project Oracle, something from his past he's never mentioned, even to her. But she trusts him, knows whatever secrets he's keeping must have good reason. "Don't know what you're talking about," Thomas maintains, but Reynolds just laughs. "The quantum encryption algorithms you developed? The ones that could make conventional cybersecurity obsolete. Multiple governments are very interested, especially in how you managed to solve the decoherence problem." Kate processes this information while maintaining her frightened wife demeanor. Thomas hadn't just been a security chief. He'd developed something revolutionary, something dangerous. In the wrong hands, a burst of static from Raven's radio breaks the tension. "Package has arrived, moving to phase 2. Reynolds nods to his operators. "Secure them separately. Mrs. Mitchell stays here. The husband comes with us to check some interesting features of your property." This is the moment they've been waiting for, the attempt to separate them. Standard tactical procedure for extracting information. Break down resistance by using loved ones as leverage, but they don't understand what they're dealing with. Don't realize that Kate's shooting titles weren't just about accuracy. They were about speed, about tactical problem solving, about thriving under pressure. They don't notice how she's positioned herself relative to the mounted Winchester, not to reach for it, but to be in perfect position when their attention is focused on the wrong weapon. Mrs. Mitchell, Reynolds addresses her directly, for everyone's safety, I suggest you cooperate. We're not here to hurt anyone. We just need your husband to reveal certain information. Once we have it, this all ends. Kate lets her hands shake slightly, selling the fear they expect. Please, she whispers, don't hurt him. Perfect. They're completely buying the act. So focused on Thomas, on the secrets they think he's hiding, they've missed all the signs. Haven't noticed how every defensive position they've taken was subtly influenced by the ranch's layout. Haven't realized they're standing exactly where she needs them. Through the window, Kate spots more vehicles arriving. Heavy trucks, military-grade, equipment for accessing the mine tunnels, for extracting whatever they think is hidden there. Move him, Reynolds orders. Two operators step forward to grab Thomas. Kate's finger brushes the hidden trigger again. Everything is in position. The real hunt is about to begin, because what they don't know, what their extensive research failed to reveal, is that Kate Mitchell didn't choose this life just to escape her competitive shooting career. She chose it because this particular ranch, with its strategic position and hidden tunnels, was perfect for something else entirely, perfect for those times when dangerous people come looking for things they shouldn't have, perfect for dealing with threats to national security that can't be handled through official channels, perfect for a trap that's been waiting 23 years to be sprung. Everything changes in a heartbeat. As Reynolds' men move to grab Thomas, the ranch's generator suddenly fails, plunging the windowless interior rooms into darkness. Emergency lights flicker, casting uncertain shadows across unfamiliar walls. Check the breakers, Reynolds barks, but Kate's already moving. Years of muscle memory guide her in the darkness she knows intimately. The hidden compartment behind the bookshelf opens silently, revealing what she needs. Ma'am, stay where you... Raven warns, but her tactical light illuminates empty space. In the confusion, none of them notice the nearly invisible tripwire at ankle height, fishing lines stretched across strategic points. The first operator goes down hard, professional composure shattered by the unexpected fall. His radio clatters. Across the hardwood floor, sliding perfectly into position, Kate's first shot from a weapon they never saw her draw takes out the radio with surgical precision. No blood, no casualties, just calculated disruption of their communications. Weapons free, Reynolds shouts, but the sound of shattering glass drowns him out. The mounted Winchester drops from its display, creating a perfect distraction. In the chaos, nobody notices Kate's real target, the hidden control panel that activates the ranch's true security measures. Magnetic locks engage on reinforced doors they never realized existed. The decorative metal shutters on the windows slam shut with military precision. Within seconds, the safe room protocols Thomas designed during his Silicon Valley days transform the ranch house into a fortress. What the hell? One of the operators tests a window, finding it impenetrable. Outside, they hear their backup team scrambling to respond, but the ranch's layout has already scattered them, each trying to secure positions that Kate has prepared for exactly this scenario. Mrs. Mitchell, Reynolds' voice carries a forced calm. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. A shot rings out, precise, controlled. The tactical light in Raven's hand explodes, adding to the darkness. Not a kill shot, not even meant to wound, just another demonstration. Interesting assumption. Kate's voice seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, the house's acoustics working in her favor. That I'm the one making things difficult. Through her custom night vision system, built into what appears to be an ordinary pair of reading glasses, Kate watches them react. Professional operators discovering their tactical advantage, evaporating by the second. Target priority shift, Reynolds commands. The wife is now Another shot interrupts him, this time taking out the concealed radio in his collar. Again, surgical precision. No blood drawn, but the message is clear. She could have made other choices. Outside, the helicopter's engine whines as the pilot attempts to reposition for better coverage. But Kate's already prepared for this. The hidden panels in the barn roof slide open, revealing defense systems that shouldn't exist on a civilian ranch. "That's a Gustav anti-aircraft system," one operator whispers, recognizing the distinctive profile. "How'd it leave?" Kate's voice carries absolute authority, "while I'm still allowing non-lethal options." But Reynolds isn't finished. He grabs Thomas, pressing a pistol to his head. Standard hostage technique, except he doesn't realize he's playing directly into their plan. "Enough games," Reynolds snarls. "Show yourself or—" The lights return, but not the main power. Strategic illumination activated by hidden switches, creating a maze of shadows and blind spots that Kate knows intimately. Through her tactical glasses, she watches them squint against the sudden changes in lighting. "You assume," she continues calmly, "that my husband is my weakness, that threatening him gives you leverage." A new sound cuts through the tension, heavy bolts engaging throughout the house. The operators recognize the sound of serious security, measures activating, the kind that shouldn't exist in a simple ranch house. "But you never asked yourselves an obvious question." Kate's voice carries notes of almost professional disappointment. "Why would someone with Thomas's background in quantum encryption and cybersecurity choose this specific ranch?" Outside, their backup teams discover another problem. The corral gates have mysteriously opened, releasing dozens of horses that now block vehicle access. Not panicked stampeding, but controlled movement, almost like the animals were trained for this. Or maybe a better question, she continues, taking out another tactical light with impossible precision. Why would a competitive shooter who set records at 1,000 yards suddenly retire to raise cattle? Through her glasses, Kate watches realization dawn on their faces. They've made a critical error in their tactical assessment, one that professionals should have caught. "The ranch isn't Thomas's safe house," she explains, almost conversationally. "It's mine." Reynolds spins, trying to track her voice, but she's already moved. Years of practicing in this exact space, letting her navigate invisibly while they stumble through unfamiliar territory. "Project Oracle isn't hidden in the mine tunnels." Thomas speaks for the first time, his voice steady despite the gun at his head. "That was never the secret worth protecting." The helicopter pilot's voice crackles through their remaining radios, heavy with concern. "Sir, we've got movement on multiple ridges. Military-grade camouflage nets being removed. Looks like... Sir, we're surrounded by heavy weapons emplacements." Kate allows herself a small smile, remembering the years spent preparing those positions. The shell companies were created to purchase surrounding properties, the equipment cached under innocent-looking ranch outbuildings. "Did you really think," she asks quietly, "that someone with my skill set would just retire, that the government would let an asset like me simply walk away?" A new sound reaches them, vehicles approaching at high speed. Not their tactical backup, but something else, something that makes the corrupt Sheriff Conway's face go pale with recognition. "This ranch," Kate continues, taking out another radio with casual precision, "sits at the intersection of 3 major smuggling routes. Perfect location to monitor certain activities that concern national security. Perfect cover for someone who needed to maintain a specific watch post." Reynolds' professional composure cracks slightly. "Who are you?" "Someone who spent 23 years preparing for moments exactly like this. Someone who chose this location specifically because people like you would eventually come looking for things they shouldn't have." The approaching vehicles resolve into unmistakable shapes, unmarked federal tactical units moving with precision, the kind of response that doesn't happen by accident. "Last chance," Kate offers, her voice carrying absolute authority. Surrender now, or discover exactly why certain agencies considered my skills too valuable to waste on simple competition shooting. Reynolds' grip on Thomas tightens, desperation warring with training. You're bluffing. No way you could... His words cut off as Kate's next shot parts his hair, so precise it doesn't draw blood, but definitely gets his attention. That's the interesting thing about being underestimated, she muses, about letting people think you're just a rancher's wife who used to compete with a rifle. They never ask the right questions, like why someone would spend decades maintaining competition-level accuracy, or why certain sealed records from classified operations never quite made it into their intelligence briefings. The federal vehicles screech to a halt outside, disgorging tactical teams moving with practiced coordination. Through her glasses, Kate spots familiar faces. Operators she's worked with before, people who understand exactly what this ranch really is. Project Oracle was never the target worth watching, she explains, almost sympathetically. It was just bait, designed to attract exactly the kind of attention that would expose certain corrupt elements in law enforcement, certain private military contractors willing to sell their services to the highest bidder. Sheriff Conway tries to run, but discovers another truth about the ranch: strategic barriers that appear decorative but can deploy instantly, cutting off escape routes. Welcome, Kate concludes, finally stepping into view with professional grace, her custom rifle held with competition-perfect form, to the most sophisticated counterintelligence trap ever constructed on American soil. Because sometimes the best way to catch dangerous predators is to let them think they're the hunters. Sometimes the most effective weapon is patience, the willingness to spend decades preparing the perfect response to a threat you know will eventually emerge. The real operation is finally revealing itself, and Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous, is just getting started. Reynolds' remaining operators take defensive positions, their training warring with growing uncertainty. Through the ranch's security feeds, Kate watches similar scenes unfold outside, professional soldiers discovering their carefully planned operation has trapped them inside someone else's kill box. You know what's really interesting? Kate maintains her position of advantage, each movement calculated to control the space. How none of you questioned the ranch's power requirements. All those decorative solar panels, the oversized generator, the redundant systems. More energy than a simple cattle operation could ever need. A burst of static from their remaining radios, their backup teams discovering more surprises, the abandoned grain silos that suddenly open to reveal sophisticated surveillance equipment, the innocent-looking windmills that house military-grade communication jammers. Incoming! A panicked voice cuts through their tactical frequencies. Multiple aerial contacts, low-altitude approach. Kate allows herself a small smile. Right on schedule. The sound of rotors fills the air, not just one helicopter now, but many. Through her tactical glasses, she watches recognition dawn on their faces as they spot the distinctive profiles of federal aircraft. Did you really think, she continues, taking out another tactical light with surgical precision, that someone could run this sophisticated operation without backup? That all those training exercises in the National Forest weren't coordinated for exactly this moment? Reynolds' face shows the first real crack in his professional facade. Your CIA? Interesting guess, Kate responds, her tone suggesting, he's not even close. But the agency that actually holds my contract, well, let's just say it's the one that makes other agencies nervous. Thomas uses their distraction to slip free of Reynolds' loosening grip, moving smoothly to a pre-planned position. Anyone else would see a lucky escape. Kate sees her husband of 23 years executing his part of a long-established protocol. The quantum encryption files were never here, he adds, his voice carrying new authority. My entire career in Silicon Valley was just part of her cover. Been wondering how long it would take someone to try using me as leverage. Through the ranch's enhanced surveillance system, Kate monitors the federal tactical teams deploying with precision. Each unit moving to pre-planned positions, executing an operation rehearsed dozens of times over the years. Remember those competition records I set? She addresses Reynolds directly now. The ones that seemed to plateau at exactly 1,000 yards. Never occurred to you to ask why someone capable of consistent accuracy at that range would suddenly stop competing? A new sound cuts through the tension. The distinctive whine of military transport aircraft. Through her tactical glasses, Kate spots heavy cargo planes approaching at low altitude, their holds filled with serious hardware. Because sometimes, she continues, watching their last hopes of resistance crumble, the best cover isn't hiding your skills, it's showing just enough of them to make people underestimate what you're really capable of. Sheriff Conway makes another break for freedom, but discovers another truth about the ranch. The decorative stone walls around the property aren't just for show. They're hardened defensive positions, designed to channel movement exactly where Kate needs it. 23 years, she muses, almost contemplatively. Maintaining this position, watching the smuggling routes, monitoring corrupt officials, waiting for someone exactly like you to try something exactly like this. The federal tactical teams breach, with perfect coordination, each unit knowing its role in a plan decades in the making. Through her surveillance feeds, Kate watches similar scenes unfold across 3 counties. Other ranches suddenly revealing their true nature. See, that's the thing about deep cover operations, she explains, almost sympathetically. The really effective ones don't look like operations at all. They look like retirement, like someone stepping away from the spotlight, like a competitive shooter choosing a quiet life with her husband. Reynolds makes one last desperate play, reaching for a concealed backup weapon. Kate's shot takes it from his hand with impossible precision, the kind of accuracy that comes from knowing every angle, every shadow, every possibility in a space you've prepared for exactly this moment. Fun fact about those mine tunnels you're so interested in, she continues, watching federal teams secure the property with practiced efficiency. They don't just honeycomb these hills, they connect to a certain restricted facility about 30 miles north, the one that officially doesn't exist. Convenient access for when certain agencies need to move resources without attracting attention. The last resistance crumbles as reality sets in. These aren't just federal agents, these are operators from an agency so classified even other agencies rarely acknowledge its existence. The kind of response you can only call in with very specific authorization. Welcome, Kate concludes, professional satisfaction evident in her voice, to Operation Homestead, the most sophisticated counterintelligence operation ever hidden in plain sight. You just walked into a trap 23 years in the making. Because sometimes the most effective weapon isn't a rifle or tactical advantage. Sometimes it's patience. The willingness to spend decades preparing the perfect response to threats you know will eventually emerge. The dedication to maintain a cover so deep that even your target's background checks only reveal exactly what you want them to see. Outside, more federal units arrive. Inside, Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, prepares to demonstrate exactly why certain agencies considered her skills too valuable to waste on simple competition shooting. The real operation isn't just revealing itself. It's about to show these professionals exactly what happens when they underestimate the wrong target. The arrival of federal tactical teams should have ended it. Instead, everything gets more complicated when Reynolds starts laughing. A cold, calculated sound that makes Kate's instincts scream warning. Impressive setup, he manages between chuckles. Really, truly impressive, but you might want to check on your backup. Through her tactical glasses, Kate spots the problem. The approaching federal helicopters aren't maintaining standard formation. Their flight patterns are erratic, suggesting confusion or, worse, compromised command structure. "Raven," Reynolds calls out casually. "Execute protocol sundown." The woman moves with lightning speed, pulling something from her tactical vest. Not a weapon, a specialized communications device. Before anyone can react, she broadcasts a coded signal that makes the ranch's surveillance screens crackle with interference. "Fun thing about deep cover operations," Reynolds mimics Kate's earlier tone. "The really effective ones work both ways, like having sleeper agents in federal response teams or compromised pilots in tactical air support. The helicopters suddenly break formation, some peeling away while others turn aggressive vectors toward the ranch." Through her command feeds, Kate watches in growing concern as federal tactical teams start fighting each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe. "Did you think," Reynolds continues, real satisfaction in his voice, "that you were the only one playing a long game? That corruption in local law enforcement was our only asset?" Kate's mind races, calculating new variables. The ranch's defenses were designed assuming federal backup. Without it, the tactical situation shifts dramatically. "Thomas," she signals, quietly. Contingency 7. Her husband moves smoothly to a hidden panel, entering a complex code. Throughout the ranch, secondary systems activate, fail-safes designed for scenarios exactly like this. "You're not the only one who's spent years preparing," Reynolds announces. "Project Oracle was never the real target. This ranch, this operation of yours, that's what we've been working to expose." The sound of renewed fighting reaches them from outside. Through the ranch's remaining surveillance, Kate watches in growing concern as more unmarked vehicles arrive. Not federal tactical teams, private military contractors with serious hardware. "You see," Reynolds explains, real pride in his voice, "some very powerful people are very interested in how certain agencies operate on American soil, in exposing deep cover operations that bypass conventional oversight. Your setup here, it's about to become a major international incident." Kate's enhanced listening devices pick up new radio traffic, news helicopters approaching, media vans fighting through the confusion, exactly the kind of attention a covert operation can't afford. "Stand down," a voice crackles through the command channel. "All federal units stand down, operation compromised. Pull back to secondary positions." This isn't just a tactical assault anymore. It's an elaborate operation designed to expose covert government activities, to force classified programs into the public eye. "You're not just arms dealers," Kate realizes, studying Reynolds with new understanding. "You're working for someone who wants to destabilize federal intelligence operations, to expose agencies that officially don't exist." "Among other things," he agrees. "And you just helped us create the perfect storm. Federal agents attacking each other on American soil, classified hardware deployed against civilian targets, media already scrambling to cover the story." Through her tactical glasses, Kate sports news drones approaching, commercial satellites reorienting for coverage. Everything about her carefully maintained cover is about to be blown wide open. "Sir," one of his operators reports urgently, "we've got movement in the mine tunnels. Multiple contacts emerging from unmarked access points." The ground trembles slightly as hidden doors open throughout the property. Kate's surveillance shows figures emerging from concealed entrances, more operators in tactical gear. But these move with different purposes. "What the—" Reynolds starts, but Kate cuts him off. "Contingency 7, she explains calmly, wasn't calling for backup, was warning them to execute independently, because while federal tactical teams might be compromised, while conventional forces might be pulling back, there are other assets in play. The kind that don't officially exist, the kind that train for scenarios exactly like this. You assumed," Kate continues, real satisfaction in her voice, "that exposing this operation would create chaos, would force certain agencies to abandon their positions, to run from publicity. Through her command feeds, she watches the new operators secure the property with cold efficiency. No standard tactical gear or federal markings, nothing that could identify them or their agency. But here's the thing about agencies that officially don't exist, she explains. About operations so classified that even other agencies don't know about them. They don't care about exposure, don't worry about public relations or oversight committees. Reynolds's face shows the first real concern as he recognizes the truth. These aren't federal tactical teams bound by rules of engagement. These are something else entirely. Welcome, Kate announces with professional satisfaction, to the real Operation Homestead. Not just a counterintelligence trap, but a filter, a way to identify which federal assets are compromised, which contractors are working for foreign interests. The new operators move with lethal grace, systematically neutralizing resistance. No weapons fired, no bloodshed, but absolute dominance of the tactical space. Because sometimes, she continues, watching Reynolds's carefully laid plans crumble, the best way to catch infiltrators is to let them think they've exposed you, to let them compromise exactly the assets you want them to reveal. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches similar scenes unfold across multiple properties. Other ranches activate their true protocols, other operators emerging from hidden facilities. Did you really think, she asks almost gently, that an agency sophisticated enough to maintain deep cover operations would rely on conventional federal backup, that we wouldn't have contingencies for compromised tactical teams? The last of Reynolds' resistance crumbles as reality sets in. They haven't exposed a classified operation, they've triggered one. Haven't created chaos, but activated a response specifically designed for this scenario. The media can record whatever they want, Kate explains. Federal oversight committees can investigate to their heart's content. They won't find anything connecting this to official agencies. Won't be able to prove anything except that some private military contractors attacked a civilian ranch. Because sometimes the most effective counterintelligence isn't about hiding everything. Sometimes it's about controlling exactly what gets exposed, about using public attention to mask deeper operations. The real mission is just beginning, and Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, is about to demonstrate why certain agencies consider her their most valuable asset. You know what's fascinating? Kate maintains her tactical position while the new operators secure the space. How you assumed Thomas was the weak point, the leverage you could use, never occurred to you that his Silicon Valley career wasn't just cover for my operation, it was bait for yours. Through her command feeds, she watches Reynolds process this. New information. The realization that Thomas's work on quantum encryption wasn't just a convenient target. It was designed to attract exactly this kind of attention. The security breaches at his companies, she continues, the supposedly stolen files, the breadcrumbs leading to Project Oracle, all carefully orchestrated to identify which intelligence agencies were compromised, to see who would try to exploit it. A new sound cuts through the tension, more vehicles approaching, but these move differently. No tactical formation or aggressive positioning, just steady, purposeful advance. Sir, one of Reynolds's remaining operators reports urgently. Sir, those look like CDC vehicles and Department of Energy containment units. Kate allows herself a small smile. Did you really think an agency sophisticated enough to maintain this operation would risk actual classified materials? That we'd store real quantum encryption data in abandoned mine tunnels? Through her tactical glasses, she watches understanding dawn on their faces. The realization that Project Oracle wasn't just bait, it was a cover for something else entirely. Those tunnels you were so interested in, she continues, watching hazmat teams deploy with practiced efficiency. They're not secure storage, they're Quarantine zones, monitoring stations for something much more interesting than stolen data. Reynolds's professional composure finally cracks as he spots the radiation detection equipment being unloaded. The biological containment protocols activate throughout the property. "Welcome," Kate announces with grim satisfaction, "to Operation Wildfire, a multi-agency response to potential biological and radiological threats being smuggled through these mountain passes. The real reason this ranch needs so much power, such sophisticated monitoring equipment. Because sometimes the most effective cover isn't just about hiding your true purpose. Sometimes it's about layering multiple operations, letting your targets expose themselves by chasing the wrong secret. Those compromised federal teams you activated," she continues, watching more specialized units arrive. "They just triggered a full CDC response protocol. Every one of them will need to be quarantined, tested, monitored. Their equipment was confiscated for decontamination." Through her command feeds, Kate watches similar scenes unfold across multiple properties. Other ranches activate their containment systems, other specialized teams deploying in full hazmat gear. "Fascinating thing about CDC protocols," she muses, "about Department of Energy containment procedures. They supersede almost every other agency's authority. Even media helicopters have to maintain distance from potential contamination zones." Reynolds watches in growing horror as his carefully orchestrated exposure operation transforms into something else entirely. No dramatic media coverage of classified programs, just clinical documentation of containment procedures. "But what about—" he starts, but Kate cuts him off. "The news crews? They're about to get exactly what they came for. A story about private, military contractors potentially exposing civilian populations to hazardous materials. About heroic CDC teams responding to contain the threat." Through her tactical glasses, she watches the narrative unfold exactly as planned. Media focusing on the hazmat teams, the containment procedures, the potential public health risk. No one questioned why a simple ranch had such sophisticated security. Not when there's a better story about environmental dangers. The really clever part, she continues, professional satisfaction evident in her voice. "Every one of your operators will need to be processed through decontamination. Their equipment catalogued, their communications logged. Standard CDC procedure for potential exposure events." The last of Reynolds' resistance crumbles as he realizes the trap within the trap. They haven't just failed to expose a classified operation. They've handed federal authorities legal justification to investigate every aspect of their organization. And the best part? Kate allows real appreciation to color her tone. None of this requires special authorization or classified clearance. The CDC's authority in potential contamination events is completely public, completely documented. Everything happening here will be recorded in official reports available through Freedom of Information requests. Because sometimes the most effective counterintelligence isn't about hiding in shadows. Sometimes it's about operating completely in the open, using public health protocols and environmental regulations to mask deeper purposes. A new alarm sounds through the ranch's surveillance system. Proximity warnings from the perimeter sensors. Through her tactical glasses, Kate spots more vehicles approaching. Not CDC or federal tactical teams this time. These move with different purposes. Security breach at Sector 7, one of her operators reports through secure channels. Multiple hostiles attempting to access the tunnel network through unmarked entry points. Their operational parameters, everything exposed through completely legal channels, because sometimes the most effective intelligence gathering isn't about covert surveillance or classified operations. Sometimes it's about creating situations where multiple adversaries. Kate processes this new information while maintaining her position of advantage. Someone else is moving pieces on the board. Someone who saw Reynolds' exposure operation as an opportunity. "You're awfully calm," she notes, studying Reynolds' reaction, "for someone whose plan just fell apart. Almost like this isn't the only operation in play." His slight smile confirms her suspicion. The compromised federal teams, the media attention, the attempted exposure, it was all distraction. Cover for something else. "Running a nice operation here," Reynolds admits finally. "Multiple layers, excellent coverage, but you made one crucial mistake. Assumed we were the primary threat." Through her command feeds, Kate watches new players emerge from concealed positions throughout the property. Not private military contractors or federal agents. These move with different discipline, different tactical doctrine. "Foreign special operations teams," she observes calmly, "using our little drama as cover for their own infiltration. Let me guess, they've been waiting for an opportunity exactly like this. A chance to access the tunnel network while everyone's distracted by your exposure operation." Reynolds' smile widens slightly. Among other things, the ranch's surveillance shows similar scenes unfolding across multiple properties, other quarantine zones being breached by highly trained infiltrators, a coordinated operation using public chaos as tactical cover. "Interesting choice," Kate muses, watching the new threats deploy with professional precision, using compromised federal assets to create a diversion, making us focus on domestic threats while foreign operators move into position. Through her tactical glasses, she spots more teams emerging from hidden approaches, their movement patterns, their equipment, their tactical protocols, all suggesting serious state-sponsored activity. "But here's the thing about layered operations," she continues, real appreciation coloring her tone, "about using public health protocols as cover for intelligence work. It's not just effective against domestic threats. A new sound cuts through the tension, more alarms, but these carry different meanings. Throughout the property, hidden systems activate. Sensors that weren't just monitoring for radiation or biological agents. "Welcome," Kate announces with professional satisfaction, "to the real Operation Wildfire. Not just a counterintelligence trap or quarantine protocol, a multilateral containment system designed to identify and isolate foreign infiltration teams. Because sometimes the most effective defense isn't just about stopping one threat. Sometimes it's about creating situations that force multiple adversaries to expose themselves simultaneously. You assumed," she explains to Reynolds, "that CDC protocols would just provide cover for your exposure operation. Never occurred to you that quarantine procedures might have other purposes. Those containment zones could trap more than just biological threats." Through her command feeds, she watches the foreign operators discover their mistake. The tunnel network they thought would provide covert access has become their prison. Each section is capable of being isolated, sealed, controlled. "Another fascinating thing about CDC protocols," Kate continues, "about Department of Energy containment procedures. They don't just apply to domestic targets. Any foreign national potentially exposed to hazardous materials can be legally detained, their equipment confiscated, their communications monitored." Reynolds watches in growing understanding as his operation's true purpose is revealed. They weren't just unwitting pawns in a counterintelligence game, they were bait in a much larger trap. "Those special operations teams you helped position?" She allows real appreciation to color her tone. "They just triggered multiple international quarantine protocols. Their governments will have to officially acknowledge their presence to request their release. Their diplomatic status exposed themselves while trying to exploit what they think is someone else's weakness." "So," Kate concludes, watching containment teams isolate another section of the tunnel network, "want to tell me what they're really after? What's hidden in these mountains that's worth risking international incident over? Or should we just wait for the diplomatic fallout, when their governments have to explain why their special operations teams were breaching CDC quarantine zones?" The real operation isn't just unfolding, It's forcing multiple adversaries to reveal themselves, their capabilities, their true objectives. A perfect fusion of public health response, counterintelligence, and international diplomacy, each layer providing leverage against different threats. And Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, is just getting started, demonstrating why certain agencies consider this particular approach their most valuable asset. Because sometimes the most effective weapon isn't a rifle or tactical advantage. Sometimes it's the ability to turn public health protocols into diplomatic leverage, to use containment procedures as intelligence-gathering tools, to make multiple adversaries expose themselves while trying to exploit what they think is someone else's vulnerability. The real operation is just beginning, and every player on the board is about to learn why underestimating a target can be the most dangerous mistake of all. The sound of helicopter rotors fades as CDC teams establish their quarantine perimeter. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches Reynolds process the changing situation, his military training warring with growing uncertainty. Mike Foster, arriving at Checkpoint 3, her command feed reports. The local veterinarian's arrival isn't a coincidence. Another piece moving exactly as planned. Interesting timing, Reynolds observes, watching Mike's truck approach. Your backup vet is showing up just as things get complicated, almost like he's part of the operation. Kate allows herself a small smile. You did thorough background checks, didn't you? Is everyone connected to the ranch? Must have been reassuring, finding such normal histories. A local vet who's served the community for 20 years. A retired Silicon Valley executive. A competitive shooter who gave up the circuit for a quiet life. Through her surveillance feeds, she watches Mike's practiced movements as he passes through the CDC checkpoint. His medical credentials provide perfect cover for what's about to happen. Tell me, she continues, studying Reynolds' reaction, when you investigated Dr. Foster's background, did you look deeper than his veterinary license, check his military service records, or did you assume that's all there was to find? Recognition flickers across Reynolds' face. No. 20 years ago, Kate explains, certain agencies realized they had a problem, how to monitor remote areas without drawing attention, how to maintain medical support for covert operations without compromising security. Mike exits his truck with practiced efficiency, medical bag in hand. To the CDC teams, he appears to be exactly what his credentials claim, a local veterinarian concerned about livestock in the quarantine zone. They don't notice how his movements mirror military field medicine protocols. Solution was elegant, Kate continued. Recruit military medical personnel, give them new identities, new backgrounds, set them up in rural communities as veterinarians. Perfect cover for someone who needs to treat injuries without filing official reports. Through her tactical glasses, she spots more vehicles approaching. Local ranchers, business owners, seemingly concerned citizens coming to check on the situation, each one moving with a subtle purpose that suggests more than civilian curiosity. The feed store owner, Reynolds realizes, watching Sam Chen's truck pass through the checkpoint. The woman who runs the diner came up with an interesting theory, Kate muses, about using small communities as cover, about how certain roles, doctors, business owners, local officials, can provide perfect surveillance positions if you're patient enough to build them properly. Thomas moves to greet Mike, their interaction appearing completely natural. 2 decades of working together has made their coordination seamless, unconscious. Your wife, Reynolds addresses Thomas directly, she's not just an operative, is she? She's a handler. This whole community that is exactly what it appears to be, Thomas replied calmly. A small ranching town where everyone knows their neighbors, helps each other out, watch each other's backs. Just happens that some of those neighbors have very specific skill sets. Through her command feeds, Kate monitors similar scenes unfolding across multiple properties. Other communities activate long-established protocols, other local citizens revealing their true capabilities. 23 years, she explains, professional satisfaction evident in her voice. Building covers so deep they become real. Letting operators put down actual roots, form genuine connections, because sometimes the most effective way to hide something is to make it absolutely authentic. The ranch's surveillance shows more locals arriving, each moving to pre-planned positions, with practiced efficiency. Sam Chen, former Special Forces demolitions expert, now a respected business owner. Maria Delgado, retired intelligence analyst, running the local diner where everyone shares gossip and news. You created an entire community, Reynolds observes, with reluctant admiration. Not just cover identities, but real lives, real relationships. Better, Kate corrects. We found a real community, one that understood the importance of what we do, that was willing to help protect something bigger than themselves. Through her tactical glasses, she watches the operation's true scope unfold. Local law enforcement, coordinating with CDC teams, their genuine concern about public safety providing perfect cover for containment protocols. Business owners offering support and resources, their legitimate community standing, making their presence completely natural. Because here's the thing about small towns, she continues, about tight-knit communities where everyone knows everyone else. They notice things, share information, watch out for threats. Mike moves through the quarantine zone with professional purpose, his medical checks of the livestock providing perfect cover for gathering intelligence. Sam Chen's feed store employees deploy equipment that serves dual purposes, agricultural tools that just happen to have tactical applications. Most of these people, Kate explains, aren't agents or operators. They're exactly who they appear. To be ranchers, business owners, community members. They just happen to understand that sometimes protecting their way of life means helping certain agencies maintain watch positions. Reynolds watches in growing comprehension as more pieces fall into place. The way local businesses always seem to have exactly what the operation needs. How community events provide perfect cover for coordination meetings. How genuine relationships and real connections make the best operational security. Your foreign infiltration teams, she continues, monitoring surveillance feeds. They did everything right, studied patterns, analyzed routines, identified what they thought were vulnerabilities. Never realized that the entire community is part of the defense network. Through her command feeds, Kate watches those defenses activate. Local ranchers move cattle to block specific access routes. Business owners' security cameras provide coverage of key positions. Community members sharing information through seemingly casual conversations. Because sometimes, she muses, the most effective counterintelligence isn't about high-tech equipment or classified protocols. Sometimes it's about having neighbors who notice unusual vehicles, community members who share concerns about suspicious activity, local officials who understand when to look the other way. The last of Reynolds's tactical advantage crumbles as he realizes the truth. They haven't just triggered a federal response or CDC protocols. They've activated an entire community's defense network. Welcome, Kate announces with quiet pride, to Operation Heartland, where the best cover isn't just a story or legend. It's 23 years of real relationships, genuine connections, and a community that protects its own. Because sometimes, the most effective weapon isn't a rifle or tactical advantage. Sometimes, it's the trust built over decades of living and working together. The strength that comes from turning cover identities into real lives, operational protocols into genuine community support. The real operation isn't just unfolding, it's revealing the true power of turning an entire community into your defensive network. And Kate Mitchell, Competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, is just getting started demonstrating why certain agencies consider this approach their most valuable asset. A burst of static cuts through. The command channel. Eagle's Nest compromised. Sarah Martinez's voice carries professional urgency. Multiple hostiles accessing the high ground through the old fire tower. Kate processes this new information while maintaining tactical advantage. Sarah, officially the local Forest Service ranger, moves with the precision of someone who spent 15 years in mountain warfare operations. Your infiltration teams are good, she acknowledges to Reynolds. Using the fire tower's maintenance, access to bypass our perimeter, taking advantage of official Forest Service routes, almost like they had inside information about federal land management protocols. Through her tactical glasses, she spots more movement along the ridgeline. The foreign operators are using environmental survey markers for navigation, standard Forestry Service indicators that just happen to mark key tactical positions. But here's the thing about rural communities, Kate continues, watching Sarah coordinate with her Firewatch teams, about small towns surrounded by federal land. Everyone has legitimate reasons to know the terrain, to understand access routes and observation points. Mike Foster's voice joins the tactical channel. Multiple injuries at Checkpoint 4. Foreign operators caught in one of Sam's agricultural deterrent systems. Fascinating thing about ranch security, Kate muses, noting Reynolds' growing comprehension. About protecting livestock from predators. Lots of perfectly legal ways to discourage unwanted visitors. Electronic barriers, motion sensors, containment systems, all completely documented in agricultural permits. Through her surveillance feeds, she watches Sam Chen's agricultural security measures activate across multiple properties. Livestock protection systems that serve dual purposes, defending against four-legged and two-legged predators with equal effectiveness. Maria, Kate signals through the command net. Status of our guests? Diners full of regulars, Maria Delgado responds, her voice carrying layers of meaning. Lots of interesting conversations about the CDC presence, about unusual vehicles seen up by Miller's Creek, about strange aircraft flying without proper lights. Because sometimes the most effective intelligence gathering isn't about sophisticated surveillance. Sometimes it's about having a diner where people naturally share information, where community gossip provides perfect cover for operational updates. Your wife, Reynolds addresses Thomas again. She didn't just build a surveillance network. She turned everyday life into an intelligence operation. Better, Thomas corrects. She showed us how our normal routines, our regular activities, could serve multiple purposes. How being exactly who we are provides the best coverage. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches the community's response network in action. Rachel Wong's hardware store employees deploying emergency supplies, equipment that looks completely ordinary but meets military specifications. John Baker's auto repair shop provides mechanical support that just happens to maintain tactical vehicles. Tell me, she studies Reynolds' reaction, when your teams surveyed the town, did they notice anything suspicious about the high school's agriculture program? About how the students learn tracking and navigation skills as part of their regular curriculum? Recognition floods his face. The next generation is exactly what they appear to be, Kate confirms. Local kids learning traditional skills, following their parents into family businesses. Just happens that some of those skills have additional applications. Sarah's voice crackles through the command net again. Firewatch teams reporting multiple thermal signatures in Sector 7, using the old logging trails for cover. Interesting choice, Kate observes, using abandoned logging routes to move undetected. Must have seemed perfect, officially closed to the public, missing from recent maps, providing excellent tactical approaches. Through her surveillance feeds, she watches the foreign operators discover their mistake. The logging trails aren't abandoned. They're actively maintained by community members who understand their strategic value. Because here's another thing about rural communities, she continues. About small towns where traditional skills still matter. Everyone has legitimate reasons to maintain old roots, to keep historical knowledge alive, to teach their children about the land. Maria's voice joins the tactical channel. Got some interesting customers at the diner. German tourists asking very specific questions about the mine tunnels. Chinese geology students are very interested in local cave systems. Kate allows herself a small smile. Amazing how many foreign interests suddenly develop academic curiosity about remote locations. How many tourists and students show up, asking just the right questions. And the community? Reynolds watches more local vehicles arrive, each taking perfectly natural positions that just happen to have tactical significance. Knows exactly what to share, Kate confirms, what information to let slip, what details to hold back, how to make certain interests think they're gathering intelligence while actually feeding them exactly what we want them to know. Through her command feeds, she monitors similar scenes across multiple properties. Other communities use their natural dynamics, their regular activities, to mask deeper purposes. Welcome, she announces with quiet pride, to the real Operation Heartland, where the best defense isn't just about tactical positions or surveillance networks. It's about having an entire community that understands how to turn their normal lives into perfect cover stories. Because sometimes the most effective counterintelligence isn't about sophisticated technology or classified protocols. Sometimes it's about grandparents teaching tracking skills while sharing family stories. About farmers maintaining old trails while checking their fences. About local businesses whose regular operations provide exactly the support an intelligence network needs. The real operation isn't just revealing itself. It's demonstrating why certain agencies consider rural communities their most valuable asset. Why small towns where everyone knows everyone else, where traditional skills still matter, where people naturally watch out for each other, provide perfect cover for deeper purposes. And Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, is just getting started, showing why underestimating the power of genuine community bonds can be the most dangerous mistake of all. The CDC quarantine zone casts strange shadows across the ranch as evening approaches. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches Reynolds' face as new understanding dawns. The realization that everything he thought he knew about this operation was wrong. "Sir," one of his operators cuts through the tension. "We're getting unusual. Readings from the mine tunnels, multiple temperature anomalies, power signatures that don't match any known equipment." Kate allows herself a small smile. They're finally noticing what's been there all along, hidden in plain sight beneath layers of carefully crafted deception. "Interesting thing about old silver mines," she muses, watching their surveillance equipment struggle with unexpected data. About abandoned tunnels that everybody knows are played out. Nobody questions why they'd need modern ventilation systems, climate-controlled storage areas, power requirements that exceed normal mining operations. Through her command feeds, she monitors similar discoveries across multiple properties. Other teams find sophisticated installations hidden beneath seemingly abandoned structures. "These tunnels don't just connect to a restricted facility," she explains, professional satisfaction evident in her voice. "They are the facility. Each abandoned mine shaft is part of a larger network. Each historical mining claim covers something far more valuable than silver deposits." Reynolds processes this information while his operators report more anomalies. Ground-penetrating radar, revealing structures that shouldn't exist. Thermal imaging showing heat patterns that suggest major underground installations. The ranch isn't just a watch post, he realizes. It's a cover for something bigger, something that needed exactly this kind of location, this type of terrain, among other things, Kate confirms. Tell me, when your teams analyzed local power consumption, did they wonder why so many ranches in this area maintain industrial-grade electrical systems? Why seemingly ordinary agricultural operations require the kind of cooling capacity usually associated with data centers? Through her tactical glasses, she spots more CDC teams deploying specialized equipment, not just biological containment, gear, but hardware designed for very different purposes. Project Oracle wasn't about stolen quantum encryption files, she continues. It was about quantum computing itself, about needing specific environmental conditions, geological formations, that could shield certain experiments from outside interference. A new alarm sounds through the command network. More anomalies detected in the tunnel system. Kate watches, understanding Flood Reynolds' face as he realizes what they've stumbled into. The whole operation, he breathes. The ranch, the community, the counterintelligence trap. It's all protection for some kind of quantum research facility. Interesting theory, Kate responds neutrally. But you might want to ask yourself, why would anyone build sensitive research installations in such remote locations? What kind of experiments require this level of isolation, this type of geological shielding? Through her surveillance feeds, she monitors similar revelations across multiple properties. Other teams discover that the abandoned mines, the historical tunnels, form parts of something much larger. "Sir," another operator reports urgently, "we're picking up. Sir, these readings don't make sense. The power signatures, the thermal patterns, they suggest some kind of containment system," Kate suggests mildly. "Interesting thing about quantum mechanics, about certain theoretical applications. Some experiments require very specific conditions, very careful monitoring, very particular types of isolation." Reynolds' face shows growing concern as he processes the implications. What exactly are you holding down there? That's an excellent question, she acknowledges, one that several foreign intelligence agencies have spent considerable resources trying to answer. Why certain phenomena only manifest in these locations, why some experiments can only be conducted under these specific conditions. Through her command feeds, she watches the CDC team's equipment register new anomalies, readings that shouldn't be possible, measurements that defy conventional explanation. Because here's the thing about quantum research, Kate continues, about experiments pushing the boundaries of what we understand. Sometimes you discover things you weren't looking for, things that need very particular types of containment. Sarah's voice cuts through the tactical channel. Multiple breaches detected in lower tunnel sections, foreign teams attempting to access restricted areas. Poor choice, Kate observes calmly. Breaching containment protocols without understanding what they're designed to contain, almost like they assume the CDC quarantine was just a cover story. Through her tactical glasses, she watches the foreign operators discover their mistakes. The tunnels aren't just secure storage or research facilities. They're sophisticated containment systems for something far more interesting than classified data. "Welcome," she announces with professional satisfaction, "to Project Looking Glass, where quantum encryption was just a side effect of experiments into something far more fundamental. Something that required 23 years of careful preparation, specific geological conditions, and an entire community dedicated to maintaining proper containment. Because sometimes the most effective security isn't just about keeping people out. Sometimes it's about making sure certain things stay contained, about maintaining barriers between what we think we understand and what actually exists. The real operation isn't just revealing itself, it's demonstrating why certain phenomena require such elaborate containment protocols, why some experiments need to be conducted in perfect isolation, hidden beneath layers of carefully crafted deception. And Kate Mitchell, competitive shooter, rancher's wife, and something far more dangerous than either, is about to show these infiltrators exactly why breaking containment protocols can be the most dangerous mistake of all. Through her command feeds, new alerts flood in. The foreign team's breaches have triggered deeper security measures, protocols designed for scenarios that shouldn't be possible. Multiple anomalies spreading through Tunnel Section 5, Mike Foster reports, his medical training evident in his precise terminology, readings consistent with previous containment events, initiating isolation procedures. Kate watches Reynolds process this information, his tactical training trying to make sense of what their equipment is detecting. Those aren't just security systems activating, he realizes. Something down there is responding to the breaches. Interesting choice of words, she acknowledges. About as close as conventional language can get to describing certain phenomena. Tell me, did your research into Thomas's quantum encryption work ever address why traditional computing fails under specific conditions? Why do some calculations produce results that shouldn't be possible? Through her tactical glasses, she monitors the foreign team's progress through the tunnel network. Their sophisticated equipment registering readings that contradict basic physics, measurements that suggest impossible events. Sir, one of Reynolds' operators reports urgently, we're losing contact with breach teams. Their communications are... Sir, the signals aren't just being blocked, they're being altered somehow, changed into something else. Sarah's voice cuts through the tactical channel. Temperature inversions detected in sectors 3 through 7. Gravity anomalies consistent with previous events, initiating full-spectrum containment. Because here's the thing about quantum mechanics, Kate explains, watching the containment protocols engage. About experiments into fundamental reality, sometimes you discover that our understanding of basic physics is more about consensus than truth, that certain phenomena only appears impossible because we all agree they should be. Through her surveillance feeds, she monitors similar situations across multiple tunnel sections. Other teams encounter effects that shouldn't exist, experiencing events that conventional science says can't happen. The ranch isn't just covering a research facility, Reynolds understands finally. It's containing something you found during the experiments, something that changes how reality works. Interesting theory, Kate acknowledges. But you might want to consider, what if we didn't find anything? What if certain phenomena have always existed in these locations? What if all our experiments did was notice what was already here? New alarms sound through the command network. The breach team's attempts to access restricted areas have triggered cascading effects throughout the tunnel system. Reality itself seems to ripple around the intrusion points. Your foreign operators are well trained, she observes calmly. Professional, disciplined. But they're trying to apply conventional tactical thinking to unconventional situations, using standard breach protocols against systems designed to contain things that shouldn't exist. Through her tactical glasses, she watches the infiltrators discover the true nature of their mistake. The tunnels aren't just secure storage or research facilities. They're sophisticated barriers between what we think we know and what actually exists. That's why we needed this specific location, she continues. These particular geological formations, not just for shielding experiments or hiding classified research, but because something about these mountains responds to certain possibilities, creates conditions where conventional physics becomes more suggestion than law. Maria's voice joins the tactical channel. Multiple temporal anomalies detected in Sector 9. Causality patterns shifting beyond established parameters. Time itself behaves strangely, Kate translates for Reynolds' benefit. Reality becomes less fixed, more negotiable. Interesting thing about quantum mechanics. Observation affects results, and right now your breach teams are observing phenomena they're not prepared to understand. Through her command feeds, she monitors the spreading effects. The foreign operators' attempts to access restricted areas haven't just triggered security systems. They've disturbed something far more fundamental. "Welcome," she announces with grim satisfaction, "to the real Project Looking Glass, where quantum computing wasn't the goal, it was just a tool for measuring things we barely understand, for monitoring phenomena that exist whether we want them to or not. Because sometimes the most effective security isn't just about physical barriers or containment protocols. Sometimes it's about maintaining the consensus reality that keeps certain things impossible, about making sure some doors stay closed, some possibilities remain unexplored." The community doesn't just provide cover, Reynolds realizes, watching. Impossible readings spread across their monitoring equipment. They're not just maintaining security or hiding classified research. They're keeping something contained, something that was already here. Among other things, Kate confirms, interesting facts about rural communities, about places where certain phenomena have always occurred. People adapt, create explanations that let them cope with impossible events, build lives around maintaining barriers between what should be and what is. Through her tactical glasses, she watches the foreign teams retreat from the tunnels, their sophisticated equipment overwhelmed by readings that defy explanation. Their professional training is useless against events that shouldn't be possible. "That's why we needed an entire community," she explains. Why certain agencies spent decades building this operation, not just for counterintelligence or security, but because containing some things requires more than physical barriers. It needs people who understand why certain doors should stay closed, why some possibilities should remain theoretical. New alarms sound throughout the command network. The breach team's intrusion has triggered cascading effects that threaten to overcome the containment protocols. Reality itself seems to flex around the disturbance points. "So," Kate concludes, watching the impossible readings spread, "you have two choices. Help us restore containment, help maintain the barriers between what should be and what is, or discover exactly why certain phenomena require such elaborate protection, why some possibilities are better left unexplored." The real operation isn't just revealing itself, it's demonstrating why certain locations require such careful monitoring, why some experiments need perfect isolation, why some discoveries demand absolute containment. A deep tremor runs through the tunnel system, more felt than heard. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches reality itself seem to bend around the breach points. The foreign team's intrusion hasn't just triggered security systems, it's disturbed something that defies conventional understanding. "Time to make a choice," she tells Reynolds, her rifle trained with competition-perfect form. "Help us restore containment or become part of what we're containing." The look in her eyes makes it clear. This isn't a threat. It's a warning about forces beyond tactical advantage or military power, forces that some doors are better left closed against. Reynolds makes his decision in a heartbeat, military training overriding personal ambition. "All units fall back," he orders, through remaining comm channels. "Disengage from tunnel access points. Full withdrawal. Emergency protocols." But it's already too late. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches new players emerge from the chaos, black-clad figures moving with inhuman precision, their gear unlike anything conventional military. Forces use. "Containment breach in Sector 12. Sarah's voice carries unusual tension. We've got Department H assets deploying without authorization. Repeat, hunter teams are active." Kate processes this development with growing concern. Hunter teams, the government's answer to problems that shouldn't exist. Operators enhanced by exposure to quantum phenomena, transformed into something beyond standard human capability. "You don't understand what you've done," she tells Reynolds, watching the new threats move through restricted zones with devastating efficiency. Those aren't conventional special forces. They're what happens when operators spend too much time exposed to quantum effects. When reality itself starts rewriting human biology, through her command feeds, she monitors the hunter team's advance. Their movement patterns defy normal physics, their tactical responses operating on intuition that borders on precognition. Stand. Down! A new voice cuts through all communication channels simultaneously. Commander Isabel Chen of Department H, her tone carrying authority that resonates on frequencies beyond normal hearing. This site is now under direct oversight. All conventional forces will withdraw immediately. The effect on Reynolds' remaining operators is immediate. Combat-hardened professionals suddenly struggling with headaches, nosebleeds, synapses misfiring as they encounter influences they were never trained to resist. Quantum encryption research, Kate explains, watching reality ripple around the hunter team's presence. It was never about computer security. It was about finding ways to encode human consciousness, to create operators who could function in spaces where conventional physics breaks down. Through her tactical glasses, she spots more Department H assets deploying. Not just enhanced operators, but equipment that seems to bend space around it. Weapons that affect probability rather than physical matter. You made a catastrophic error. Commander Chen's voice resonates through quantum-entangled communications. Assumed this facility contained something. Never occurred to you it might be quarantining someone. Kate's enhanced hearing picks up new sounds, impossible geometries forming in breached tunnel sections, reality trying to adapt to the presence of things that shouldn't exist in conventional space-time. The ranch isn't just a surveillance post, she tells Reynolds, as his operators struggle with mounting quantum exposure. It's a buffer zone, a place where enhanced humans can gradually transition back to normal physics, where hunter teams can decompress after operating in spaces that don't follow standard rules. Through her command feeds, she watches the situation deteriorate. The foreign team's breaches haven't just compromised security, they've disrupted carefully maintained quantum gradients, barriers designed to keep altered humans safely separated from conventional reality. Those aren't just containment protocols activating. Commander Chen's voice carries growing urgency. Those are decompression chambers failing, quantum isolation, breaking down. Do you have any idea what happens when enhanced operators are suddenly exposed to normal physics? The answer becomes horrifyingly clear as two hunter team members encounter unshielded space. Their bodies twist in impossible ways, consciousness operating on quantum principles, trying to exist in classical reality. Fall back, Kate orders through all channels. Emergency Protocol Omega. All conventional forces clear the perimeter. This isn't about security anymore. It's about preventing a cascading breakdown of local physics. But the foreign special operations teams aren't retreating. Their enhanced equipment, designed to breach high-security installations, is accidentally creating quantum resonance patterns, turning their sophisticated tactical gear into catalysts for reality distortion. You wanted to know what we're really protecting, Kate asks Reynolds, as reality itself seems to shudder. Look at your operator's vital signs, at how exposure to quantum phenomena is rewriting their basic biology. This facility exists to prevent that kind of transformation from spreading. Through her tactical glasses, she watches the hunter teams move with impossible grace. Their enhanced capabilities let them navigate spaces where conventional physics is more suggestion than law. This is your last warning, Commander Chen broadcasts on frequencies that make reality itself vibrate. Withdraw all forces or face immediate quantum nullification. We will not allow uncontrolled enhancement to spread beyond containment zones. The foreign team's response is immediate and catastrophic. Their sophisticated breach equipment, already acting as quantum resonance catalysts, begins actively amplifying the effect, creating feedback loops that threaten to transform everything within range. Time to choose, Kate tells Reynolds as reality ripples around them. Help us contain this, or become part of what we're containing. Because once quantum transformation starts, it doesn't just affect human biology. It rewrites everything it touches. Through her command feeds, she watches the situation reach a critical threshold. Hunter teams moving to neutralize threats, while Department H assets deploy quantum nullification devices, technology designed to forcibly restore normal physics. Regardless of the cost to enhanced organisms, the real confrontation isn't about military power or tactical advantage anymore. It's about preventing uncontrolled quantum enhancement from spreading beyond containment. About stopping the transformation of conventional reality into something beyond human comprehension. And Kate Mitchell, the only unenhanced operator ever to successfully work with Hunter teams, is about to demonstrate why maintaining the barrier between quantum and classical physics sometimes requires extreme measures. The air itself seems to crystallize as reality fragments around them. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches the Chinese quantum array reach critical resonance, creating perfect conditions for something that exists between possibilities. To bridge the gap into normal space, all units fall back to final positions, Commander Chen broadcasts, on frequencies that ripple through multiple realities. Prepare for emergency protocol Omega. We are authorizing timeline collapse. Timeline. Collapse, the absolute last resort, deliberately destabilizing local reality to prevent larger breaches from spreading, the quantum equivalent of a firebreak. You can't, Reynolds protests, understanding the implications. The collateral damage is better than the alternative, Kate responds, watching phantom structures solidify as barriers continue to fail. Because what's trying to come through isn't just parallel possibilities or quantum echoes. It's something that evolved specifically to bridge realities. Through her command feeds, she monitors the deteriorating situation. The foreign team's probability manipulators have created the perfect storm, weakened barriers, quantum resonance, and energy patterns that attract entities evolved to exist between possibilities. Fascinating thing about artificial separation, she explains, noting how reality bends around certain points. About maintaining barriers between different versions of existence. Sometimes the spaces you create become habitable for something new, something that learns to thrive in the gaps between possibilities. Sarah's voice carries urgent warning through the tactical channel. Multiple Echo-class entities converging on breach points. Sir, they're not just manifesting, they're coordinating. Kate's enhanced hearing picks up impossible sounds, frequencies, that shouldn't exist in normal space. The language of things that evolved between realities, communicating across quantum barriers. Your probability drives created bridges, she tells the increasingly desperate Chinese operators. But did you ever ask yourselves what might be waiting on the other side? What might have learned to use quantum resonance as a beacon? Through her tactical glasses, she watches the foreign team's sophisticated equipment register impossible life signs, their quantum technology detecting consciousness that operates on principles beyond human understanding. Those containment seals you breached, she continues, observing how phantom images flicker between solid and ethereal. They're not just keeping different possibilities separated. They're preventing something that exists between realities from establishing footholds in normal space. Commander Chen's enhanced consciousness processes new data streams as reality continues to fragment. All Hunter teams, be advised, Echo-class entities are displaying new behavior patterns. They're not just manifesting anymore. They're transforming local space to support their form of existence. Because that's the real threat, not just entities crossing between realities, but their ability to convert normal physics into something that can sustain impossible life, to reshape our universe into spaces where their form of consciousness can thrive. Time to make a choice. Kate addresses all channels as reality reaches a critical threshold. Help us contain this, or watch everything you know become compatible with their existence, because once they establish sufficient footholds, the transformation becomes self-sustaining. Through her command feeds, she watches similar situations unfold across multiple sites. Other ranches reporting Echo-class entities using weakened barriers to begin reality conversion. The ranch isn't just a surveillance post or research facility, she explains, observing how transformed spaces spread like fractal patterns. It's a maintenance point for the barriers that keep our form of existence stable, that prevents quantum entities from turning normal space into something that can support their consciousness. A new sound cuts through the chaos, impossible machinery powering up. Not Chinese quantum tech or Department H containment systems, but something that exists between possibilities, activating ancient protocols. "Sir," one of Reynolds's operators reports with growing horror. These readings, the Echo-class entities aren't just transforming space. They're accessing something hidden in the quantum barriers themselves. Some kind of, "Sir, it looks like technology that shouldn't exist." Kate allows herself a grim smile as reality continues to fragment. Welcome to the real secret. Those quantum barriers weren't created by us. We just maintain them, keep them functioning to prevent the original builders from returning to claim what they left behind. Through her tactical glasses, she watches understanding flood the foreign team's faces. Their quantum technology hasn't just breached containment. It's accidentally activated ancient systems designed by entities that evolved beyond normal space-time. That's why we need this specific location, she explains, watching impossible machinery emerge from between realities. These particular geological formations, they're not natural. They're artifacts left by something that existed before our form of consciousness became dominant. Commander Chen's voice carries new urgency as she addresses all channels. Multiple quantum signatures detected in breach. Zones. The Echo-class entities aren't invading, they're reclaiming territory. This was their reality before artificial barriers forced them into the spaces between possibilities. And that's the ultimate truth. The reason certain agencies maintain such elaborate containment protocols, not just to prevent parallel realities from bleeding through, but to maintain the quantum barriers that keep an older form of existence separated from ours. Last chance, Kate announces as ancient machinery continues to activate. Help us restore containment, or discover exactly why certain forms of consciousness were artificially separated from normal space. Why do some possibilities have to stay confined to the gaps between realities? Because sometimes the most dangerous threats aren't about military power or tactical advantage. Sometimes they're about preventing the return of entities that existed before our form of consciousness became possible, about maintaining artificial barriers between different versions of reality itself. The final confrontation isn't about enhanced operators or quantum technology anymore. It's about stopping ancient machinery from dismantling the barriers that make our existence possible. About preventing the return of consciousness that evolved beyond normal space-time. Through her command feeds, Kate watches reality reach the point of no return. The Chinese quantum array's resonance patterns haven't just weakened barriers. They've given Echo-class entities the perfect opportunity to reclaim spaces that once belonged to them. Only one option left, she announces, activating protocols. Hidden in her tactical systems. Timeline collapse, full-spectrum reality reset, push everything back to baseline and reinforce quantum barriers with new separation protocols. Because that's the ultimate purpose of Operation Heartland, not just maintaining surveillance or containing quantum phenomena, but being ready to deliberately destabilize reality itself. To collapse local timelines and rebuild quantum barriers, stronger than before. The real mission was never about counterintelligence or enhanced operators. It was about preserving the artificial separation between different forms of consciousness, about preventing the return of entities that existed before normal space-time became stable enough for human awareness. And Kate Mitchell, the only operator, who understands why certain possibilities have to stay confined to the spaces between realities, makes the final choice that will determine which form of existence gets to call this universe home. Timeline collapse. Initiating, Commander Chen. Broadcasts across all frequencies. All units activate quantum anchors, maintain connection to baseline reality at all costs. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches the community's hidden systems power up. Not just Department H technology or quantum containment measures, but something far more fundamental. Machinery designed to preserve specific versions of reality, while others are deliberately erased. "Remember those competition records I set?" she asks Reynolds as space begins to warp. "Why did I always stop at exactly 1,000 yards? It wasn't about shooting. It was about maintaining precise quantum coordinates, about marking points that could survive timeline collapse. The foreign team's probability manipulators start to malfunction as reality itself becomes unstable. Their sophisticated equipment wasn't designed for this, for deliberate destabilization of local space-time. Fascinating thing about timeline collapse," Kate explains, watching phantom images flicker and fade. "About deliberately erasing certain possibilities while preserving others. You don't just reset reality. You have to maintain anchor points. Fixed coordinates that survive the reset." Sarah's voice carries across quantum-entangled channels as the collapse begins. "Multiple anchor points activating. The community's coverage is holding. We're maintaining baseline coordinates across all sectors. Because that's the real purpose of the ranch's layout. Every fence post, every building, every seemingly random feature positioned to create a precise geometric pattern, a network of quantum anchor points that can survive reality destabilization. Those aren't just property markers," Kate tells the increasingly desperate Chinese operators. "Those survey stakes and boundary lines, they're quantum coordinates, points that stay fixed while everything else gets reset." Through her command feeds, she watches similar patterns activate across multiple properties. Other communities maintain their own networks of anchor points, preserving specific versions of reality, while others are erased. "The ranch isn't just a surveillance post or containment facility," she continues, observing how certain points remain stable while space warps around them. "It's a quantum template, a pattern that reality can rebuild itself around after timeline collapse." Commander Chen's enhanced consciousness processes new data streams as the collapse accelerates. Echo-class entities attempting to interfere with anchor points. They're trying to preserve their own version of reality. But Kate's attention is focused on something else. How the ancient machinery hidden in quantum barriers responds to the collapse, not fighting it, but adapting, changing, becoming something new. "Sir," one of Reynolds's operators reports with growing awe, "these readings, the Echo-class entities aren't just being erased, they're evolving, using timeline collapse to transform themselves into something that can survive in normal space." Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches impossible transformations unfold. The entities that existed between possibilities aren't trying to maintain their original form. They're using the collapse to become compatible with our reality. "That's why we need this specific configuration," she explains, noting how quantum anchor points guide the transformation. This particular pattern of fixed coordinates, not just to preserve our version of reality, but to give them a template for adaptation. The Chinese quantum array's power signature changes as its operators finally understand. Their probability manipulators weren't just breaching containment, they were accidentally triggering the next phase of a much longer process. The barriers weren't just about separation. Kate reveals, as reality continues to reshape itself. They were incubators, places where consciousness that evolved beyond normal space-time could gradually adapt to exist in our form of reality. Through her command, feeds, she watches the final stage of timeline collapse begin. The quantum anchor points aren't just preserving specific coordinates, they're guiding the evolution of something new, something that combines different forms of existence into a stable hybrid. Last phase, she announces as space-time reaches equilibrium. Reality reconstruction, according to preserved coordinates. But this time, we're not just resetting to baseline. We're incorporating transformed entities into the new template. Because that's the ultimate purpose of Operation Heartland, not just maintaining barriers or containing quantum phenomena, but preparing for the moment when different forms of consciousness could safely merge. When entities that evolved beyond normal space-time could rejoin conventional reality, the real mission wasn't about prevention or containment. It was about guided evolution, about using quantum anchor points to help impossible forms of existence adapt to our universe, about turning ancient adversaries into something that could coexist with human consciousness. Through her tactical glasses, Kate watches the new reality crystallize. The transformed Echo-class entities find stable forms that can exist in normal space, the ancient machinery integrated with modern technology to create something beyond either. Welcome, she tells all channels as the final coordinates lock into place, to the next phase of existence, where quantum barriers don't separate different forms of consciousness. They guide their convergence into something entirely new. Because sometimes the most effective solution isn't about conflict or containment. Sometimes it's about helping different forms of existence find ways to adapt and coexist. About using precise quantum coordinates to guide the evolution of reality itself. The conclusion isn't about military power or tactical advantage anymore. It's about the successful merger of different forms of consciousness, about transformed entities finding stable existence in normal space-time, and Kate Mitchell, the operator who understood that quantum barriers were never meant to be permanent. Deep watches as ancient adversaries become new allies in the continuing evolution of reality itself. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.